slope of a line. If you write that down, you can. Again, you can fast forward this or stop and copy it to your notebooks. Here, so slope of line is the ratio of the vertical rise to the horizontal run between any 2 points on the line, and you'll see what that means in a few. We can also describe the steepness and the direction of by using the slope of the line. Okay. There are 4 types of slope. Positive slope, so as you look at the line on the graph from left to right, always from left to right, it's going up. It's a positive slope. There'll be a positive value attached to it. If it's going down, it's going to be a negative slope. So you're going to have a negative value. If it's a horizontal line, the slope is 0. And if it's a vertical line, the slope is undefined. Calculating the slope. Another way of writing that you'll see is that M, which stands for slope. Don't ask me why they use M. I actually don't know the answer to that. It's that. So you either see this or this. It means the same thing. Okay. Now, why do they call it x1? Because you're going to have 2 points on the graph, right? So one of them. So remember, this is the x value. This is the y value, and x value and y value. So to one of them, so that we don't confuse, we put a 1 because this is my point number 1, and this will be the second point. Okay. It doesn't matter who you designate as being your 1s and who you designate as being your 2s, but it really doesn't matter. You'll get the same answer. Okay. Let's see. All right. So let's take a look at an example. I will attach a handout where you're going to have a bunch of empty quadrants and coordinate graphs, quite a few of them, and they'll be empty, and you can use these. So the first thing, let's plot our points. So -1 and 5 is here. Let's call that point A. 1 and -3. Let's call this here. So let's connect these dots. To connect these dots, it's going to look like that. And you always have to put an arrow because it continues forever and ever that way and this way. So as you're looking from left to right, you can tell that this line is going down. So it's going to be a negative slope. Okay, so we have to find out the value of the slope, the steepness, right? So M for slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have 2 points. Doesn't matter who you call x1 and who you call the other one x2. So because this came first, I'll call these guys the x1, y1. And I'll call this guy the x2, y2. And now it's just a matter of plugging them in. Sorry. So y2 is -3 minus y1, which is 5, over x2, which is 1, minus x1, which is -1. So this is what it looks like. This is substitution. So -3 and -5, -8. At the bottom, 1 minus -1 is just 1 plus 1, which is 2. So the value, the slope of this particular line is -4. And that's it. Don't worry about, we'll talk about all meanings and what it means and how it's related to the particular problem we're looking at. But this is what we're looking at. So the slope of this particular line between these 2 points is -4. And any 2 points that you pick, any 2 points. And we picked these 2 points because they are exactly values that I can measure, right? This is exactly -1 and -5 over here, and this is exactly 1 over and 3 down, as opposed to, let me put it in a different color, this point right here, that point right here, and that point right here. I would get the same value, -4. So although the difficult part is to measure that, that looks like what? Negative 0.7, and how many up? 1, 2, 3.2. I don't know what I just wrote here. So again, you can see how it's very difficult for me to find out the exact value of that point, or the exact value of that point. So not usually, but you will always look for a point that we can actually measure. So these 2 points are exactly -1, 5, and 1 and -3. So, but the point is, any 2 points on this line, any 2 points, you can, and remember the line has infinite number of points. Pick any 2 points on this line, and you'll get the slope of -4. It doesn't matter which 2 points. Okay, so you will always get that. So any 2 points on that line, if you want to find the slope, you find the difference between the x, the y values and the x values. So just as a picture, let me show you what we just did. Basically what we just did was this. So let me draw. So if you think about it, let me just extend that line here. So we literally found the difference between the y values, this distance right here. Okay, my pen is starting to lag. We found this distance, and if you count, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the difference between the other point right here, right? So the difference in y values is -8. Look at that. And the difference between x value, 1, 2. That's what it meant by the definition is the ratio, right? Ratio of the y values. The difference between the y values and the ratio, the difference between the x value, and that's what we get. Okay. When we have a picture, so if I had the picture, so I think Analia brought the question up today. Do we have to use this formula here? Well, you don't. So if you actually had the picture today, and if you had a picture with a graph and you had something like this, and I asked you, hey, find the slope of the line, well, you could have just counted. Well, the difference in y values, well, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a difference in y values. And then the difference in x values is 2. But the one thing you have to be really careful with is that you know that your answer had to be negative because the slope goes down. Okay. Let's do another one. -3 and 2, -3 and -2 is here, so let's call that C. And 2 and 3. 1, 2, and 3 up. Let's call that D. So again, let's find the difference in y values. So the difference between the y values between these 2 points would be this right here. This line right here. And, oops, sorry, my pen. It's my pen, guys. Right, so the y value, so how, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, let me write this. So the slope is the change in y, the difference between the y values over the change in x. So the change in y, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The change in y values, the difference between the values is 5. What's the change between? What's the difference? What's the change in x value? The change in x value is this, the run here, right? They call that. So they call this the rise. They call this the run. So the difference between the x values would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 over 5, which we can, what do you call, simplify to 1. So the slope of this line, which I forgot to connect, if I were to connect this line right here, and hopefully you'll do a better job connecting, would be 1. It's positive because it's going up from left to right, and we'll give this, okay, and that would be it. Now, if we do it by using the formula, ym equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, just to prove a point. And this time around, just to be a little bit different, let me just erase that. So let's call these guys the x2, the 2. This will be x2, y2, and this will be my x1, y1. So go back to the formula. Y2 in this case is -2, minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is -3, minus x1, which is 2. Now if you calculate that, you get -5 on the top, and you get -5 at the bottom. What's -5 over -5? It just equals 1. So notice we get the same answer. Okay, so when you have the graph, you know, when you have the picture, you can actually do that, right? But if you don't have the graph, I definitely suggest using this. So we found the slope, the steepness of this line, and the value attached to the steepness of that line. Describe the steepness of this line is just 1. Okay. you might want to write this. So there are different formats for linear equations. The one that we talked about today is this format, where y equals mx plus b. M, or the coefficient in front of the x, will always describe the slope, and b is the y-intercept. So y-intercept means this. So imagine your x-axis and your y-axis. This is your x-axis and this is your y-axis, right? So we're gonna have lines, and let's say that b was 2, for example, plus 2. So let's say your equation, just for a second, was 5x plus 2. Now, I know one thing for sure, that this line, it's positive first of all, because that 5 is positive, so the slope is going to be positive. So it's going to be a line, by the way, that goes from left to right. It's going to go up. Now, the one thing I do know is that the y-intercept is 2. So that line is going to cross the y-axis at 2. I don't know what that line looks like yet, whether it looks like that or even a little steeper like this. I do know that A, it goes up, and B, it has to cross the y-axis of 2. And that's what this number represents. And it's called the y-intercept. Okay? I think it's going to be better with the example. So get another one, and let's represent this line in the graph. So this is our slope, and this guy is our y-intercept. Remember that to create a line, we need 2 points. So I know this line, first of all, is positive, right? So going from left to right, it's going to be a line that goes up like that. Whether it goes up like that or goes up like that, doesn't matter, but it still goes up from left to right. So, but the one thing we know for sure is that's going to cross the y-axis at 1. So we have 1 point. We need a second point. All right, so how do we get the second point? Well, slope from the equation here, we know it's 2. But what is slope, right? Slope is the ratio, the difference, the change in y. So slope is the change in y over the change in x, right? So that 2, if you're like, but there's no change in x, well, remember that 2 is over 1. Okay, so this, imagine there's a 1 there. So the change in x, it means 2. So that means that between this point and the next point, okay, there should be a difference of 2 in height. So height is 2, and then the difference in, so I'll put an arrow like this. So going up, there should be a difference of 2, and going to the right, or the run, right? This is the rise, and this is the run. So between every point, difference is the rise is going to be 2 and the run is going to be 1. So you can do it 2 ways. So you can go up 2, 1, 2, and 1 to the right. So here's my next point. So if you think about it, and I'll draw a line here. Isn't this 2 units? And isn't this 1 unit, which matches this number and this number? So I have another point. So, and if you were asked for another point, well, repeat the same thing. Going to the next point, I'm going to go up 2 and 1 to the right. Okay. So now, what if you needed more points? Well, if you needed more points, you can extend it over here, or even put some points at the bottom. So the other point on the left side of our y-intercept, well, instead of going up, we can't go up anymore, right? So we go backwards. So we go down 2 and 1. So notice, and then we go down 2 and 1. So as we're going to the left, reading from left to right, this is my line, right? And you will call this y equals 2x plus 1. Now pick any 2 points on this line, on this line, any 2 points. So let's pick this point right here, and let's call that f. That point looks like 2 and 5, and we'll call that 2 and 5. Let's pick another point right here, and let's call that g, and that point is -1, -1. Let's, just to show you, I'll write the slope. Slope is y2 minus y1, okay? over x2 minus x1, right? Sorry about that, my pen is lagging. So doesn't matter, remember I told you, doesn't matter who you call x2, y2, so let's just call this guy x1, y1, and the other one will be my x2 and y2. And let's plug it in. So y2, which is -1, right here. x1, sorry, y1 is 5, so we're gonna go -5. Over x2, and x2 is -1, which is down here, minus x1, which is this number right here, which is 2. Let's calculate that. -1 minus 5 is -6. At the bottom, -1 minus 2 is -3. And doesn't that simplify to +2? So, which is exactly this number right here. So, if you have time, pick any 2 points on this line and, you know, substitute it here using this, and you'll find out that it always equals to 2. So the slope of this line is 2. So given an equation in the format y equals mx plus b, I can create its representation, its line on a graph. So let's try one more. This one. Let's start with this. This is my y-intercept. So I know, first of all, that the line that I'm about to draw will cross -2, right, on the y-axis. And the slope is 1/3. This slope right here is positive. So I know my line going from left to right is going to go up. And I'm just making this up. It's going to go up. Okay, so it's going to look that way. So let's actually do it. So remember, to create a line, I need 2 points. I already have 1. I need 1 more. So the ratio, so my slope is 1/3. So let me write rise, and let me write run. So to get to my next point, I will go 1 up and 3 to the right. 1 up, rise 1, and 3 to the right. Run 3 to the right. Go 1 up and 3 to the right. Going backwards, if I want to point on that side, it's going to be 1 down and 3 to the left. Just go backwards, right? And I can take a ruler, which I don't have, but I have this tool over here. And you get a ruler. I'll connect. And we're going to give it a name, because you have to. Y equals 1/3 x minus 2. So the line, the equation y equals 1/3 x minus 2 is represented by this line. And again, take your time. If you want, pick any point, these points right here, right? The exact one that you can actually figure out its value. And if you want to try it out, do this. And you should get the slope of 1/3. So if you're actually going to spend the time, so pick this point here, pick this point, or pick that point. Don't pick this point over here, because you and I don't know its exact value. Don't pick this point over here, because I don't know the exact value of it. So I need the exact value, and then pick 2 points whose value you know exactly. Plug it in here, and you'll see that you get 1/3. It doesn't matter which point it is. And again, a line has an infinite number of points. Okay, so any 2 points on this line, and you plug it in here to find the slope, you get 1/3. That's pretty much what we did today. Not too much, because we only had 1 period. Okay, so y equals -3/4x. Okay, so I need the y-intercept here, right? I need 1 point. I know that A, for example, so far I know that this is negative. My slope is negative. So let me take that out. M equals -3/4. My slope is negative. Therefore, my line is going to look like this, going down. Whether it goes like down or however it goes down, it goes down. However steep it is, it goes down. So now, knowing that, I need to graph it. You're going to ask, where's my y-intercept though? Where does it cross the y-axis? Well, you don't find a number here because it's truly, this is what it should have been written as. But because when it's +0, do we really need to write +0? No, we don't, right? So because it's +0, and because it's +0, let me just write it. In this case, if it's +0, where is this line crossing the y-axis? The y-axis is going to cross right here in the origin. So this is a line with a negative slope going down, crossing the origin. Well, let's make sure we cross it the right way. So crossing the right way, so let me write rise over here and run. So the distance in the y value is going to be 3, and the distance in the x value is going to be 4. So to plot my next point, I would go 1, 2, 3 down. And how many to the right? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That's all I need. 2 points. I can connect now. I can do a better job. There we go. Okay. And that's my line, and we'll call this y equals negative 3/4 x. So notice that, let me see if I can move this a little bit better. There you go, really better. So just to show you that if I went 3 up, so this one I'm going backwards, right? If I 3 up, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I adjust my line, and I should make a better job at that. There you go. Let me move this a little better. That's what it should look like. Notice that from this point to another point that I can measure, it'd be 3 up, 4, like that, or 3 down and 4 to the right. Right, the difference between. So this value will always be 3. The height will always be 3, and this length here will always be 4. So if I look at this other one between the next 2 points, notice that this is 4 and this is 3. Okay, that's pretty much what we did today. We knew this one and today, but we're gonna do this tomorrow. So again, look at this, and how can we write this in this format? Right? So what's the equation of this line? Well, first of all, things that I know for sure. Well, the y-intercept, this line crosses the y-axis at +2. So right away, I can write that this guy is 2. It's +2, so I'm going to put the plus there. This slope, is it positive, negative? Well, if you look at from left to right, it's positive, so I know this. So, well, let me write the x here. I know my slope is going to be a positive value. So I just got to figure what that is. Well, in order to figure that out, I can use any 2 points. Okay, so I have -2 and 1, which is this point. I have 2 and 3. I also have this point, which in this case it's 0 and 2. So I have 3 points. Pick 2 of them, any 2, and plug it in here. Okay. When we don't have the picture, when we have this picture, actually I don't even need the formula, right? So if you think about it, between these 2 points, what's the difference? What's the change in x value, in y values? Well, if you look at the y value, the y value is 3 and this y value is 2. So the difference between them is 1. So I'm going to write 1. And the x value, well, x value is 2, the other one, x value is 0. So this measures 2. So that gives me the slope, m equals 1/2. So when you have picture, you use it to your advantage. If you didn't have the picture, and again, let's just pick 2 points. Let's pick 2 and 3 and -2 and 1. Let's see if we get. Let's call this x1, y1. Let's call this x2, y2. So we'll do the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 in this case is 1. y1 in this case is 3. Over x2 in this case is -2. Minus, and x1 is 2. Let's see what we get. 1 minus 3 on top is negative 2. At the bottom, negative 2 over negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. Isn't that the same thing as a half? Which we already knew from here. So the slope of this line is a half. And now I know, now I have enough information to write the equation of the line. So this line that we just created, we'll write, it's called y equals half of x plus 2. Do I have one more? Yeah, we have one more. So again, let's find, can we find the equation of the line here? So y equals mx plus b. Things that I know already. I know this is the y-intercept right here. This line crosses the y-axis at 1, so that's positive 1, so that's going to be plus 1. What else do I know? Well, the slope. The slope in this case is going to be negative. It's negative something, so my equation of my line here is y equals negative something x plus 1, and that describes this line. Again, you can pick any 2 points. It doesn't matter. So in this case, you know what? Let's pick, let me draw here, this point and that point. All right, let's use these 2 points, the one that were given originally. What's the height difference? Well, the height difference is 1, 2, 3, 4. The change, so the slope is, remember what slope is, right? The ratio of the change in y over the change in x. Right? So the change in y is 4. The change in x, the change in the difference between the x values is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if we simplify, it's 2/3, and there's one thing I have to attach to that, which is a negative, because it's a negative slope. So the equation of my my line here is y equals negative 2/3 x plus 1. Just for you to, so that you see, this is the rise, and this is the run. Run, I should say run, by the way. So let's pick these 2 points here, this one and this one. If you look at it, and let me erase this that was here. So 2/3, so between this point, I'll change colors, between this point and this point, isn't that 2 units? 1, 2, and there's my rise. And the change in x values, 1, 2, 3, isn't there? That's my 3. Right? So if you go again to the next one, isn't from here to here, isn't the change in x y values 2? Yeah. And the change in x values 3. 1, 2, 3. So it's 2/3. Okay. So the next thing, that if this was a test question, I would need you to write on top of the line y equals 2/3 x plus 1. So this line has a name. Okay, and this is the representation on the graph of this equation. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Hopefully you got it.